And joining me in Studio B this morning is Bakersfield Police Chief Greg Terry, who's coming in for his monthly visit. First of all, I want to thank you for coming in. And I know that we were talking, you haven't had a chance to really peruse the monitor report that was put out yesterday. Up until now, the monitor reports that have come out, how have they been in relation to some of your own internal investigations?
There's very often very closely or there's a lot of alignment between what we find and what the monitor finds. It's an important report to us and something that we pay attention to, and we have a team going through it now. We released our own internal report on the same data earlier this summer. And it's available on our website. So we're going through it now to do a comparison to see, are there gaps between what we found, what we looked at, and what the monitor found as well in order for us to take action. Overall, the number of allegations year over year remained relatively flat. We are working hard to get through the investigations in a more timely manner. Because I know that that's important to the public when they're filing an allegation or a complaint against the department. They want to know that it's being taken seriously and that we're going to do it quickly. And we're also tracking the types of allegations a little more closely than we used to. Instead of having them, a lot of them in these broader categories, we're getting much more specific about the type of allegation and counting it differently so that we can pay attention to the types of misconduct, potential misconduct, or just the behavior of the officers inside. So we're going through it now, and like I said, our own report is available on our website and was published this summer.
One of the things that stood out in the monitor complaint was multiple complaints. There were 18 officers, according to the monitor report, that had multiple complaints against them, which make up apparently 9% of the workforce and 26% of all those complaints. Is that surprising?
No, not really. I mean, historically, when you look, there are at times clusters of officers in the course of a year. And when you start diving into that data, you will see that sometimes that is associated with the nature of their work or the unit that they're in and the particular types of activity.
Like what? Like what?
Like a
for
gang
example,
unit, like the gang unit.
Okay.
The gang unit can see clusters of officers having a complaint. And part of the issue is not the behavior or the actions of the officers. It's the fact that if there was a complaint that there were multiple officers there and it's the same officers or the same group. It's not necessarily the same officers that the allegation is against, but there's multiple officers at a scene. And so there's some things like that that can skew the data just a bit, but we're paying very close attention to those kinds of trends inside the department because we take our responsibility to deliver professional service to the community. And so these are things that we're watching for, but very often you can see clusters of it, and that's one example of how they end up with a cluster.
The monitor also found that there were increases in different types of complaints. One was dishonesty, one was use of force, the other was criminal conduct. Is that surprising?
No, not specifically. I think the number was a very small number in a movement there. But like I said, some of that is, I think, also related to us being more specific about the allegation and tracking them differently so that we have a better look at exactly what kinds of allegations are coming in from the community. Like I said, rather than lumping them into one vague or broad category, we're getting much more specific about how we track them. And so I think year over year, you could see some movement in some of those categories that you might not have seen in the previous year.
What would you find as far as when it comes to the dishonesty? Is that just someone viewing a complaint that was filed against them that they're claiming had misrepresented facts, or?
Yeah, that can be simply that somebody believes that there's an error in the report and reports it as dishonesty. It's also inclusive of somebody saying that I did not say that the officer wrote this report, it's completely a lie. All of those, it's a range of all of those things, from errors to the allegation that an officer falsified a report, intentionally wrote things or categorized an offense or wrote a statement that was absolutely false. That's the allegation. So it's really that whole broad spectrum of dishonesty.
Is there one particular category that you keep a closer eye on? Because the use of force going up a little bit in this latest monitor report. Does that concern you at all?
Use of force is something that we've been tracking very closely over the last couple of years because to try to better understand our data and understand the way that we're delivering services to the community. And so we're requiring officers to report use of force at a much lower level than they used to. So you're going to see increases in uses of force because we're requiring them to report their actions at a level much lower than we used to. So year over year, you're going to see some movement in those numbers simply because of the way that we're tracking them.
And one other thing I wanted to touch on while we're talking about the monitor report is the complaints that were filed. They found that black residents, who make up a lower part of the population, had a third of all complaints that were filed, while Hispanic residents, which make up the majority of the population, were much lower. Does that surprise you, your reaction to those?
It sounds like there might be some movement. Like I said, I'm still going through their report to see what that shows, but any indication of a potential disparity is obviously very concerning. We want to make sure that we're delivering the appropriate professional service to all of our community, and so those are things that we pay close attention to. If there's movements or developing or indicates that there may be a trend in one of these kinds of areas, and so yeah, that is something that is important to us. And again, we're going through the report to see exactly what that means.
Let's talk about something else trending, and this is something that is very kind of disturbing. The number of DUIs. You had mentioned your last visit here that the number of DUI cases in the Bakersfield area was on the rise.
Yeah, it is. We had about 625 arrests last year for DUI. That was the entire 12 months. And right now we're just below 700. And we've got the holiday season coming up, and it's very concerning that we're seeing that increase in the number of DUI arrests, because the majority of our DUI arrests start with a collision.
The majority do.
Yeah, and when we talk about DUIs, we talk about public safety in general. There's not a lot of things that we can do to prevent a public safety crisis or an incident, but DUIs are completely preventable. And some of it is the way that we talk about it very often. When we report about it or we talk about it publicly, we talk about the legal limit. And I think we need to change that a bit, because it's really about impairment. We don't want people trying to manage their buzz under a certain number. It's really about impairment, and impairment starts when you start drinking alcohol. And right now there's no reason to make the choice to consume alcohol and drive, period. Use rideshare, use a sober driver, all of those kinds of things. Do not try to manage this number. I feel okay, I think I'll be below. It's not what it's about. It's about impairment. And impairment can start as soon as you can start consuming alcohol.
Where do you think the message is getting lost then? Because, I mean, it is all over the airwaves and everything else as far as everything you just mentioned.
It's the personal choices. I mean, there's no other way to explain that. People are intentionally, on purpose, in some respect, making the choice to consume alcohol and then getting behind the wheel. And that has got to stop. Our fatalities, our DUI-related fatalities, are also up this year versus last year. We had 8 all of last year. Right now we're at 12. And again, these tragedies are 100% preventable. Do not get behind the wheel if you've consumed alcohol, period, for any reason. Don't try to manage your number, your buzz. If you've been drinking, you are impaired. And the legal limit or the legal standard is irrelevant. If you're consuming alcohol, impairment has begun. Do not get behind the wheel and drive.
One of our local law firms has actually spearheaded an effort to try to raise the minimum punishment to include automatic jail time. Then we get into a whole other issue of jail space and whatnot. As far as your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we need to pull every lever on deterrence and prevention that we can. Certainly punishment, certainly. I mean, it's why we talk about DUI checkpoints and all of these kinds of things that we're doing to raise the visibility, because we want people to we want to prevent these tragedies from occurring. But if people are still intentionally making this choice, then the other lever that needs to be pulled, or at least considered, is absolutely increasing the punishment. It is a serious, violent offense to drink alcohol and get behind the wheel and drive through a community. You will very likely get into a collision. It's not an accident. You're going to get into a collision and very likely injure or kill someone simply because you made the choice to consume alcohol and get behind the wheel, and that has got to stop.
All right, and I want to end on a more positive note. We're talking about about the Bakersfield Christmas Parade, and the security measures, obviously, that went into place following the DUI accident that we had a couple of years ago. But it just seems like now there's this greater sense of security. I mean, there's city trucks blocking streets and new barricades and whatnot, all to prevent something like that from happening again. Yeah,
I mean, we certainly take our responsibilities in that area serious as well. And we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years. Our teams do an incredible job now of really assessing the parade route and all of the vulnerabilities. We've gone all over the country looking at ways that bigger cities are doing these large events so that we can make sure that we have safe events here. And so I am very anxious and looking forward to the parade this year.
Very good. Police Chief Greg Terry joining us for the monthly visit. I appreciate you coming in and
bet.
providing some insight.
You bet.
All right, we'll be right back.